What's good, homie G Slizzle Slice? Have you lost faith in the moral direction of humanity? Do you crave a Puritan society held to the rigorous standards of an authoritarian regime? Then why not try Games Workshop's newest gateway game, Warhammer Space Marine? What's that? System requirements? Optimization issues? Don't worry, we're not diving needle first into the premium stuff just yet. First, we need to get you hooked on the much cheaper rectal syringe product found at 3 AM behind the 7-Eleven and servitor processing plants. But Eri, why review the old game when the new game just came out? Good question, simple answer. It's because every game is a new game if you're playing it for the first time. But mostly system requirements. The game opens with a text conversation deciding the fate of this planet's inhabitants. As the world has been completely overrun by orcs, saving the population would be both resource and labor intensive, which naturally leads us to the next best solution, nuking the planet from orbit. Fortunately, the Arbiters come to their senses upon remembering that this world is still home to precious lives too valuable to throw away in the blast. This of course referring to the crews of their very expensive War Titans. In fact, it's less about saving the crew and more so the Titans themselves. In an effort to do just that, they dispatch the Ultramarines. You are Captain Titus, the leader of an entire company, noticeably absent, save for present company, Sergeant Adonis, who is a grizzled veteran, and Leandros, who is a bitch. Departing the battle bus, we drop into the heart of the Orcish swarm. Orcs are aggressively British, and so utilizing the racially sensitive greeting customs, we begin shanking our way through the crowd. This is in part because our starting gun's damage is cosmetic, meaning we'll need to find a more American caliber before we can turn this battleground into a school ground. It's said that you can never mend the self by harming another. The facts speak otherwise. Our only method for health recovery is to not just kill an enemy, but to make it wish that we had. It's easy to look at this combat and assume that it's a series of drawn-out and repetitive kill animations, but to the keen eye of the average upstanding Imperium citizen, it's immediately apparent that in actuality it's a series of incredibly stressful, drawn-out repetitive kill animations.
Oh my god, I almost died!
Enemies have several animations for Alivant, each with a different duration. You'll continue taking damage the entire time, and yet they all heal the same amount at the animation's end. This can lead to some minor frustrations when you find yourself low health, surrounded by enemies, and instead of the very quick stab and slap animation, you RNG roll the much longer hacking chest kick and die. Eventually, we find an actual weapon in the form of the Stalker Bolter. This is the best weapon in the game, it's not even close, and you'll never replace it. Why? Because headshot multipliers are more than triple, and this is the only gun with a reticle small enough to reliably hit them from more than 10 feet away. There is eventually a sniper with even higher damage, but it has less ammunition, and you can only pick one, which makes it worthless. After rescuing the world's surviving guardsmen from the 1 million invading orcs, drop pods begin raining from the sky, and it's at this point that we realize what we'd seen was only the beginning. At that moment, you find a distress call from a member of the Inquisition. Mankind is slightly religious, and Inquisitors are among the highest-ranking government officials, their role being the heavy-handed enforcement of wholesome religious values like xenophobia, segregation, and prayer day, which is any day ending in Y. The Inquisitor himself is a massive dick, as made evident when, upon helping him retrieve his life's work, he tells you to pick it up with your hands, knowing it will kill you, which it doesn't. Unbeknownst to the Inquisitor, Titus's favorite childhood food was copious amounts of dirt, which has left his immune system a throbbing, impregnable fortress against the powers of the warp. You would assume that this is a universal W. Instead, you're formally accused of heresy by your subordinate Leandros, who is a bitch. Before you can defend yourself, you're interrupted by your attempted murderer.
I see you've survived exposure to the radioactive tampon. As luck would have it, that's actually a power source for an enormous heretical prototype weapon that I've been working on in secret and pinky promise not to kill you with. Firing it even once will instantly end the invasion, kill Leandros, and add 3 inches.
Trusting him immediately, you head to his laboratory through the Warrens. The Warrens are of course completely filled with terrorists that can and will spawn directly on top of you. At some point during this time, I unlocked the power of being fine, stop asking. During Fury, you have increased damage and rapidly regenerating health. This gives Fury several uses: cooler executes, emergency heal, accident.
Ah, shit.
But these are the wrong ways to use Fury, as the correct way is unlocked during the Foundry mission. Deadeye Fury slows down time when aiming down sights, while also increasing the damage of your bullets and, by extension, your headshots. This is a kill anything button. With a full clip, it's a kill everything button, and it's at this point I'd like to talk about the power scaling. This is a Thunderhammer. Thunderhammers are an anti-tank weapon, and no, not that kind. That kind. While this is a sentient mushroom, protected only by scrap metal and delusions of grandeur. And so I can't help but find it just a little strange that it takes upwards of 12 swings of this to kill one of this. When I saw that wielding the Thunderhammer prevents you from using half of your arsenal, including your sniper, I assumed that the hammer would be retardedly broken to make up for it. And it is, if you have a jump pack. If you don't have a jump pack, the only thing retarded about the Thunderhammer was your decision to pick it up. Sniper deprivation does to your health bar what nitrous oxide does to the brains of public school children. Because if there's a single enemy sniper, artillery, or whatever these are nearby, you're now playing a cover shooter, and instead of your long-range death machine, you've brought the world's most restrictive paperweight. I understand that in 2010, hard difficulty directly translated to bigger health pool, and that a Thunderhammer one-shotting every enemy wouldn't be much of a challenge. But snipers can kill half the game's enemies in 2 hits and the other half in 1, from the safety of cover. More importantly, sniper players have an ego, and I'm tired of it. Just once it would be nice if a shooter could exist where the safest and easiest weapon wasn't also the one with the highest damage. Arriving at the Inquisitor's lab, you find it guarded by automated turrets which turn people into dead people. Strangely, this includes the Inquisitor himself, meaning you'll need to reach the facility's security systems to shut them off. As I inched my way through the level, staring down the barrels of servitor guns, I began to contemplate how much more you'll get out of these games the more knowledgeable you are of the franchise. For example, to the uninitiated, I'm opening doors and pushing buttons, some of which have decorative skulls. But in actuality, these skulls are very functional. In the 40k universe, AI is considered heresy. This is because the last time humanity used it, we created Skynet. Billions of android catgirl maidwives turned on their masters, and the auto blows became auto bites. This lasted 10,000 years, and having once again developed the capacity for advanced technology, we decided that this time, instead of artificial intelligence, we would use human. This is a person. The Adeptus Mechanicus creates much of humanity's infrastructure, and when it comes to making electronics, like, say, a light switch, they find a social deviant, violently abduct them, and shepherd them through a processing factory. First, we scan the goods to weed out the bads, who are humanely filtered through a meat grinder and recycled into food product for the hungry citizen. Believe it or not, this is getting off easy. The remaining meat bags are sheared, electrically stimulated to prevent hair growth, chemically descummified, and dressed in vacuum-fitted rubber suits, sealed at the wrists and ankles with bone-biting metal clamps. And now it's time to remove any unnecessary limbs. Normally, this is where we'd apply the local anesthesia, but running an Imperium is expensive, and somewhere we had to cut costs. Finally, we lobotomize whatever's left, leaving a pristine, reprogrammable, virtually immortal vessel known as a servitor. Servitors have a wide range of uses, from computer to automated turret to even a door.
What is my purpose?
Lower the platform.
What is my purpose?
You lower platforms.
Oh my god.
Sometimes, after installation, servitors will suffer physical trauma and awaken memories of their prior existence. Suddenly realizing that they were not always a bidet, those with the necessary parts still attached will begin prolonged and anguished, terrified screaming. To those unaware, this is actually the origin of the phrase, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. All this to say, is it really a violation of their human rights if we never considered them human to begin with? After turning off the lab defense systems, you arrive at the weapon, when suddenly, from thin air, appears Captain Nemeroth of the Special Needs chapter. Using warp magic, he crowd controls your entire squad, disenchants the Inquisitor, and steals the magic lamp. Using your warp resistance, you delay the killing blow just long enough to protect your fellow man. For your heroism, you are of course accused of heresy and chaos corruption by Leandros, who is a bitch. and this marks the beginning of the game's second half. With the presence of Chaos revealed, there's new enemies with new kill animation. Singular, as the budget ran dry, and that's all we could afford. In some cases, not even that. On the bright side, you now know how long the animation is going to be. On the not as bright side, it's pretty long. Returning to the bright side, you finally get to fight an actual boss.
I'm Boss Grimskull!
Grimskull's most powerful attack is the anti-retina cannon, after which he assumes the stance of the homeless fist and bum rushes you for your entire health bar. It brings to mind the age-old joke. 8 men are stranded on a desert island, 2 Scottish, 2 Welsh, 2 Irish, and 2 British. After a year, the Scottish had started a distillery, the Welsh had started a sheep farm, the Irish was still fighting on the beach, and the British had censored hitbox porn. There's also ads. Outside of that, you sidestep grenades and shoot the terrorist squigs before they reach you. His attacks also have friendly fire, which is very on brand for the British. What should be a mostly average boss is made infinitely more enjoyable when comparing it to what the game has been trying to pass off as a boss up to this point. Throughout the game, you'll have been discovering new weapons, some of which, like the Kraken Bolter, are flat upgrades that permanently replace an old weapon. The Kraken Bolter's description says it can shoot through cover. But what is cover? Is this pillar cover? Can I shoot through walls? Is cover limited to thin metal sheets? Well, after beating the game on the hardest difficulty, I can safely say that I have no idea, as while trying to discern if I could shoot through pillars, I accidentally figured out that, yes I can, but not like that. Bullets aren't fired from your gun. Instead, they're fired from directly adjacent to your gun. What this means is that by angling yourself against a wall just outside the enemy's line of sight, you can hit them, but they can't hit you. This also works with vertical angles. Opportunities to exploit it are abundant, and I did so several times. This got me through the game's worst mission, in which they force you to use a thunderhammer against room after room of ranged enemies. I never experienced the mission as it was actually intended, and nothing of value was lost as a result. As you approach Nemeroth, you're forced to face him alone. Nemeroth is transforming into a demon prince, at which point he will no longer be able to be killed in a way that matters. To stop him, we need to attack him while he's vulnerable. What this means is that we're going to spend the next 5 minutes standing behind these boxes. First, we save bullets by killing a wave of demons with melee only. The second wave has soldiers and 3 Chaos Marines, so we begin by quickly picking off any exposed soldiers, then using Deadeye mode to take out 2 of the Space Marines as quickly as possible. After cleaning up the stragglers, the third wave is more demons and 2 Psychers. We use the shotgun to thin the demons' ranks before finishing the rest with melee. This will have recharged our Deadeye, which we use to take out both Psychers. With the third wave of ads down, we get the privilege of fighting more ads. Demons for breakfast, demons for lunch, and demons for dinner. There's also Space Marines, but thankfully they have lukewarm IQs and decided to show up wielding thunderhammers. As there's no ranged enemies in this wave, we're free to move around, funnel everything into a line, and cleave them with the shotgun. With all waves cleared, we've arbitrarily wasted enough time that Nemeroth has transformed. And so begins the climactic final encounter, a boss comprised 100% of quick-time events. Punch 5 times, dodge. Punch 5 times, dodge. Punch 5 times, dodge. Break off a limb, spin in a circle. Second verse, same as the first. This is the entire fight. From a gameplay perspective, very disappointing. From a cinematic perspective, I was apparently so enthralled by what I was seeing that I didn't notice the final QuickTime prompt, died, and had to restart the entire sequence from the beginning. Having now done it twice, I am an authority on the matter and can confirm that the fight only gets better each time you play it. With Nemeroth defeated, you snap the glow stick, and the warp energies within explode with the force of an atomic bomb. Your warp resistance means you survive, and for saving this world, you are welcomed as a hero. Until Leandros, who is a bitch, shows up with the Inquisition and accuses you of being corrupted by chaos. You are then detained and tortured for several years. Conclusion: this game is a relic from a time when Total Biscuit was still alive and I didn't pay taxes. It's also exactly what you'd expect of a game from the early 2010s, a dodge roll without iframes, dismountable turret sections, and the collective efforts of an era to diligently exterminatus the epileptic population. It's a mostly standard shooter with a Warhammer coat of paint. And yet, I had fun. It gave me those warm nostalgia fuzzies, the gameplay was surprisingly smooth, and it didn't drag on. It cost me $3, it lasted me 8 hours. You'll enjoy it much more if you're already a fan of Warhammer, but otherwise it's a great low-spec primer for Space Marine 2. If you're lucky like me, you might even manage to find the only still active lobby for the online co-op. If you want to pick up Space Marine for yourself, you can find it on Steam for the often low price of roughly a loaf of bread. And are you so selfish that you'd choose feeding your family over serving the Imperium? Of course not. What's another winter living off street food and whatever that street food is hoarding in its pockets? Thank you for watching, don't take any wooden nickels, and have a pleasant immediate existence.
Everyone call Ogre stupid. And it's true. Ogre barely even literate. Ogre finally finished reading Ulysses, but Ogre can only identify surface-level themes like religion and nationalism, and can't comprehend deeper ideas like the remorse of conscience that make James Joyce's novel a modernist classic. Ogre's so dumb it make Ogre sad. At this rate, Ogre will never understand fitting his way.